How do you purchase a domain name? What is web hosting? What's an SSL certificate? We're going to talk about this today in our video. I'm Jamie.
I'm Mark.
And we're Social Sudo. Mark, we've narrowed down a company name. What's our next step?
So now we want to identify if that company name that we've selected is going to be available to create a website. Now, GoDaddy.com is a very popular brand to search if domain names are available. So you want to take that company name that you've selected or narrowed down and just enter that word or that company name into the search bar. For us, I'm just going to enter socialsudo.com, which we know is unavailable because we own it. But let's say that it is available. We want to select that domain, we want to purchase it, and then we're going to move on to identifying our host.
Okay, so after we've purchased it, how do we identify a host?
Yeah, so typically this is going to start with what you can afford. The best thing to do is look for low-cost service providers that function as hosts to your website. So typically you can start with a Google search, and you want to just sort of Google best hosting providers in 2022. And chances are that's going to give you a really nice list that you can then select from of those top 5 or top 10. Now, some things you want to just think about as you're doing this: make sure it's within your budget. Make sure that if you have multiple team members, that you can populate multiple email addresses, and that the upload and download speeds are adequate for your purpose.
What's the difference between hosting services?
Yeah, so some are more reliable, some are faster, some are more expensive but allow you to have a lot more content. So just like if you were to capture a photograph or something and it's 4 megabytes, chances are the storage of a really big photograph that's 60 megabytes is going to be more expensive. Think of your website as something that is going to be large or have a lot of data. As your business scales, it gets bigger, your teams get bigger, you're going to need more off-the-shelf products from your host. So typically people start to gravitate towards Google, Amazon, the big ones, but those are simply too expensive for a simple startup. I would suggest starting with someone like Bluehost, Arvix, or HostGator, which is much better positioned for working with a startup company.
Let's say I'm unsure about how my company is going to scale in the future. Am I locked into the hosting service that I go with initially?
It's a very good question. Anytime you have to change something within your company, know that there's going to be a small cost associated. Perhaps you might need to hire someone. Chances are there will be somebody who's already web savvy, that's already a member on your team, that could help you in the process. But moving DNS providers or DNS information is quite simple. You can just transfer it from one host to another. So don't ever feel locked in. Just know that your website might experience some downtime throughout that migration.
So our website is probably going to dabble in e-commerce. How do we make sure it's secure enough to do that?
This is a very good last question, Jamie. Chances are, even if you're not in the e-commerce space, your company is going to want to market certain products, even hats, t-shirts, things that it can sell to consumers just to help with brand recognition. So you do want to install a good SSL certificate, which really just keeps the people visiting your website safe if they're to enter their own credit card information, and it also helps you protect against things like malware.
So to summarize, our next steps are to buy the domain name, find a web hosting service that we're comfortable with, and to get an SSL certificate to secure the site. So next up, we're going to talk about designing the website.